Production and distribution of City Club forums on IdeaStream Public Media are made possible by PNC and the United Black Fund of Greater Cleveland, Incorporated.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the City Club of Cleveland, where we are devoted to creating conversations of consequence that help democracy thrive. It's Friday, November 15th, and I'm Cynthia Connolly, Director of Programming here at the City Club, and pleased to introduce today's forum, which is the Margaret W. Wong Endowed Forum on Foreign-Born Individuals of Distinction. Today's forum is also presented in partnership with IPM as they celebrate their 50th anniversary. Congratulations, IPM. At a time when the world seems fraught with polarization and violence, it is important to pause and witness the resiliency and solidarity of communities who are committed to working together to address poverty, injustices, inequality, and many other disparities. Founded in 1974 as a response to the predominant mission model at the time, IPM was as groundbreaking then as it is today. A global organization based right here in Northeast Ohio, IPM is the premier intersectional and multi-faith organization that nurtures and affirms justice, solidarity, and peace. Joining us today are two individuals here as part of IPM's 50th anniversary conference. Peter Anyang Nyong'o, the current governor of Kisumu County in the Republic of Kenya, is known by many as the Mandela of Kenya. He has a long list of exceptional political accomplishments focusing on education, economic development, health, and social services. And as you can see, he is not joining us on stage today. He was pulled away back to Kenya, but we will hear from him shortly via video. Also joining us is his wife, Dorothy Nyong'o, who is incredibly remarkable as the First Lady of Kisumu County in Kenya and Founding and Managing Trustee of the African Cancer Foundation. She is respected internationally as a cancer champion. Her awards are many, and her expertise spans over 40 years and includes advancements in women and girls empowerment, education, the environment, and more. In 2019, she was the winner of the Harvard Global Catalyst Cancer Advocacy Award for her relentless work in the war against cancer in Africa. And that same year, together with her daughter, Academy Award-winning actress Lupita Nyong'o, she earned the Harlem School of Arts Visionary Lineage Award. Dorothy also serves as a member of IPM's executive board and regional vice chair for Sub-Saharan Africa. Moderating the conversation today is Nadine Abusada, reporter at News 5 Cleveland, where since 2021 she has covered Brook Park, Berea, Strongsville, and Middle Eastern communities. Prior to her time at News 5, Nadine spent 3 years at WBRZ in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. If you have a question for our speaker, you can text it to 330-541-5794, and City Club staff will try to work it into the Q&A portion of the program. Members and friends of the City Club of Cleveland, please join me in welcoming our guests. Nadine.
First, I want to thank City Club for putting this on, and also another round of applause for IPM making 50 years, guys. I mean, that just deserves a moment. I promise I'm not going to make you clap a lot, I promise. But also, as you can tell, I'm sitting here with the beautiful Dorothy, and her husband Peter is not here. Before we dive into this, he didn't want you guys to think he didn't want to share things with you. So we have a video message from him. We're going to start with that.
Anyang Nyong'o, I'm the governor of Kisumu County in Kenya. We have admired and appreciated the amazing work that IPM is doing globally in supporting the poor, materially and spiritually. And that is why my wife agreed to become the vice president in Sub-Saharan Africa in promoting IPM's work since 2020. And as we sit here today, I must emphasize the specific areas that concern us in promoting IPM's work in Kenya, and particularly in Kisumu. One, education. In Kisumu, or in Kenya in general, county governments have given the responsibility of early childhood education, which is very important because that's the foundation of education in any child's life. This extends the work of the county to both urban and rural areas. And I think this is where IPM would be very interested in seeing the experience in Kenya in the context of other Sub-Saharan African countries in which its work is relevant. Secondly, the issue of entrepreneurship. As a policy, we in the county government of Kisumu would like to promote the self-reliance of our people, including students who graduate from the university in the area of entrepreneurship. And therefore, we take very seriously the technical and vocational training centers, which are the crucibles of training people for entrepreneurship, especially for issues that require skills, both technical and mental. And therefore, if you find things like electrical fittings, carpentry, joinery, those are very primary types of skills. But now they must be graduated to construction of establishments, which means that a whole array of skills are needed: architecture, electrical work, and so on. And therefore, technical and vocational training centers have become extremely important in our educational system. And our county, Kisumu, takes this as a very important element of promoting opportunities for our youth. And finally, health. Health is an extremely important responsibility that has been given to the county governments by our constitution. And health employs a lot of people, not just young people, but women as well. In our county, we have a cohort of health workers called community health workers, which involve men and women, young and old. These are the people who really extend health work to the grassroots. And they are very important in the health department, and a lot of young people are getting involved in the work of community health workers, both men and women.
Dorothy. Okay, I lied. You are going to be clapping a lot because they're impeccable. Dorothy, you also play a major role in IPM. I know your husband made a lot of remarks. For you, what is IPM and why is its work so important?
Thank you so much, Nadine. And I just want to take this opportunity to congratulate IPM on their 50th anniversary. Congratulations to all the leaders in the room. So I got to know IPM 10 years ago through Joe, and we've interacted over the 10 years. And the more I listen to the stories from the field, El Salvador, we have participants in the room, Dominican Republic and India, we have Mahesh in the room. The more I listen to those stories, the more I'm impacted by the changes that IPM makes in the lives of these people. I can tell you that very often when we have our executive board meetings, tears are shed. Tears are always shed, and they're not tears of pain. Usually, they're of joy. And just listening to, individual lives being impacted by IPM, and then communities. And to know that this has been happening for 50 years. And this past week, I've been meeting some people who have been involved with IPM for 50 years, 40 years, 20 years. And the stories are amazing. So, I became drawn to the work that IPM has been doing because it resonates with me. It resonates with us. In Kenya, we have been looking out and fighting for the liberation, second liberation, since the early 90s. Hence our exile to Mexico in the early 80s. So we have, been impacted by these issues in the world, injustice, some inequalities, inequities. People are just struggling and suffering. And we have seen that in Kenya. And we are both committed to making a difference. So IPM was really a natural partner. So when they asked me to be on the board, to look after Sub-Saharan Africa, I said yes. And I remember telling Joe, I really don't know what I can do or what I will offer, but here I am, you can use me. And I've had the honor of receiving Joe and immersion teams in Kenya a couple of times. And I just get really excited when I see the young people, how their world lights up when they have the cultural experiences, the exposure. And they have also been working with a school called Watoto wa Luanga. And I visited that school recently and saw all the way from early childhood development to the technical training that they are making a difference in the lives of those people. One child, one woman, one young person at a time. Because some of those communities where IPM operates, these are people who would never have had such a chance. So they're giving them an opportunity, a second chance at life.
Wow, that's beautiful. Now, for those that missed it, she is an international board member and regional vice chair for the Sub-Saharan Africa. Now, we talked about this when we first chatted. You guys are an interfaith organization, and you do work in Kenya, Jerusalem, China, Cleveland. A lot of faiths across the board in those spaces, especially in a time when the world is so divided over so many topics. How do you bring people together coming from so many different faiths?
The interesting thing, Nadine, is that when you've been out in the world, and if you've lived a few years like I have.
Just a few, guys, not many.
You realize that we're all the same. We're all one people. Those differences are artificial. We all have common needs, common aspirations. And I was saying yesterday, we were created in the image of God. And there is no reason why anybody should be or feel more superior to the other. And so it's just beautiful to see through the work of IPM, Hindus, Muslims, Christians, people across the divide, working together and realizing that, yes, our needs are the same, our aspirations are the same. And we have a responsibility to reach out and help and mentor each other. That selfish approach to life of me, myself, and I doesn't work for long. At the end of the day, we all exit this earth. And I think what's really important is what have you done for another person? It's not about yourself.
You're amazing. Technical difficulties, everyone. I mean, what would it be without it? Speaking of what have you done for someone else, you've done a lot for those around you, not just your work with this organization, but also an organization that you created in 2011. It is the African Cancer Foundation. And I think the beauty of seeing both of these together, and we talked about this when sitting backstage, is with IPM, you guys take these grassroots orgs, you go to these places that have a need, and you're not overwhelmed with all the challenges you're faced with. You're saying, let's fix this from the ground up, and you invest. But you also are doing that with your work in Africa, in Kenya, trying to provide awareness and help when it comes to cancer. Talk to me about the work that you do with that organization as well.
Sure. So in 2011, my husband was treated for prostate cancer at UCSF in San Francisco. And while we were there, we realized that the level of awareness was extremely low in Kenya on cancer. And the reason, first of all, that we were there is because we didn't have adequate cancer services in the country. At that time, he was the Minister for Medical Services, and he had been trying to champion for changes in the health docket. And with all the bureaucracy, everything was taking so long. So by the time we left Kenya, there was only one radiation machine at the National Hospital. And it was an old cobalt machine, really outdated, with a waiting line of 6 months to 8 months. So we were fortunate that we could go out and get his treatment. But we realized that we needed to do something. And so we decided to come back home and approach it from the grassroots. We realized that even though he was the Minister for Medical Services, the bureaucracy would keep us stifled. So we set up this foundation, Africa Cancer Foundation, to create the awareness and to drive the need from the grassroots. So we came up with fact sheets, booklets, which we developed from the National Cancer Institute materials in the USA. We modified them to reflect the African experience. And then we started holding medical camps. And to date, we have screened over 35,000 men and women for breast, cervical, and prostate cancer, always out in the villages where normally they would not access services. And we look for partners on the ground. We always work with the government. So we get the nurses and clinical officers to do the examinations because we don't have the expertise. We can organize and mobilize, but we are not doctors or nurses. So we bring them on board and we team up with banks and anybody who is willing to participate. And we set up camp for a day, 2 days, 3 days. And people come, sometimes we screen 700 to 1,000 people. And what we then realized that we needed to do is what next? And so we handhold those who test positive and navigate them through the system. But what has happened between then and now is that the whole topography has changed. And now we have several public hospitals with state-of-the-art radiation equipment, with chemotherapy throughout the country. We have developed national guidelines for cancer, and Africa Cancer Foundation participated in that. And so the services are more available now. Even in the private sector, there are more hospitals with more equipment and more services. And today, at that time, we had only about 5 to 10 oncologists in the country. Today, we have 65.
Wow.
So things have changed a lot. We even have PET scan services in the country, things that didn't exist. So it has created hope, and the patients are now getting better treatment, better services. And then we're members of a national network of cancer organizations. So we help to guide the patients back and forth.
Your organization is about 13 years. I'm trying to do math on the top of my head.
13.
13 years. I can only imagine the challenges that you guys have faced, but even your work together. How do you overcome it? How do you keep pushing when you are faced with an overwhelming wall that's preventing you from pushing to the progress that you want to see? Because I mean, we see the progress, but what we don't see are the 13 years to get here. What has kept you going?
That's a good question. We have had serious challenges along the journey. We have lost patients, and we get very attached to them, and we've lost patients. And on one hand, that's so disheartening, but on the other hand, it sparks us on. It tells us that we need to do more. But we've also seen success stories of patients who have recovered and bounced back to work and are now participating and living their life fully. And that encourages us. So it's those individual success stories that keep us going. And just like Wangari Maathai, the Nobel Peace winner, said, we have the hummingbird effect. The hummingbird just does that little bit, and that little bit makes a difference. Wow. And so we do our little bit. We reach out to other partners, and we try to make a difference.
Wow, beautiful. Through IPM and through your Cancer Foundation, I know you're making a huge difference. And you mentioned you do a lot of work with women in both orgs. Given what's going on, we're not talking politics today, guys. Let's just put it out there now. But given what's going on in the world when it comes to women and women's rights, talk to me about how important empowering women is in the work that you do right now.
It's really important to empower the women because they are the core, the backbone of the community. And we have a saying that if you educate a man, you educate an individual, but you educate a woman, you educate a village. Wow. And so we have seen women, when they are empowered and they have their own resources, they take along their families, and it makes the difference. So it's always been encouraging to see that effect. And so we like to work with the women as well.
And then I'm going to add, as we talk about her work with IPM and the Cancer Foundation, she's also a mother of 5 guys. Did you know that? How do you do it all? How do you find the time?
Multitasking. It's never easy, but I would say by the grace of God that I've been able to raise my children. They're now grown-ups and they're helping me. But yeah, just keeping on. My husband has been very supportive. He always encourages me to do what I can do.
I love because your husband's the governor, you're the first lady, and it's just making sure both of you are staying afloat. Now, today we're talking a lot about nurturing, affirming justice, solidarity, and peace. What would be your message, I mean, to this audience that's looking at you and all the work that you've done and that you continue to do to remind them that they can do it too?
Everybody has a gift. Everybody can do something to make a difference in somebody else's life. So I think it's really a matter of being aware, listening, and doing your bit. Everybody has their gift. And we saw when we went to the Fatima Center, and it's lovely to see you all here. They have made such a huge difference in the lives of the community that they are serving. And all that adds up. It counts.
If you could look back at you in 2011, raising these kids, being the first lady, starting this foundation, what would you say to yourself? Take a moment, it's okay. We have salads to eat, right? Take your time.
What would I say? I did not anticipate that I would have so much to do. But I really thank God that we've come this far. It has not been easy, but with God's grace, it has been possible. I would tell myself, don't worry, keep going. It will work out.
Okay, I can ask many more questions, but I know everyone in the audience has questions. You know the drill. You can text them or you can come to our microphone and ask any questions. I'm going to remind the audience, we're not talking politics today, guys. Let's just keep it to the topic. So we're going to start with our first question. And for those that are just tuning in on the live stream, we welcome questions from anyone, City Club members, guests, students, as well as those joining via our live stream at cityclub.org or live radio broadcast at 89.7. For those that are just coming in, I'm Nadina Busada with News 5, and I'm hanging out with the beautiful Dorothy Nyong'o. Look, I got it right.
You did.
And we're talking about her work and, of course, IPM and their 50 years of doing impeccable work across the world. And we already have someone right in front of us.
Can you please talk about with early childhood?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So, as my husband mentioned, early childhood is important, and it was given to the county government as a major responsibility. So when I learned about the importance of early childhood as a first lady, I decided to set up a model school in my office to serve the staff in my office and to serve the community. So it's a really small center, but it's a model with a nursing room. And the workers can bring their children there, and we also get people from the community to bring their children there. It's been running now for the last 5 years, and it has really made a difference in that community, and other centers come to learn from it. We want to create that as a model so that other offices and other government departments can also set them up. We also set one up in the market so that the women in the marketplace could use that center for their children as they're working. And also in the technical and vocational training centers, so that the young girls who unfortunately drop out of school because of early pregnancy, they can go and learn a trade, but also have their children safely being nurtured nearby. So it's been a game changer because it liberates the young girls so that they can acquire additional skills. And it also gives the little ones the security that they need and the foundation that they need to grow up into responsible citizens.
Thank you. Now we have one over here. We hear you still, it's okay.
Our next question is a text question. It says, how far beyond Kenya does the work of the African Cancer Foundation reach, and how much support do you receive from the United Nations?
How far, did you hear him? How far beyond Kenya does the African Cancer Foundation, and then what support do you receive from the United Nations?
Okay, so Africa Cancer Foundation has mainly worked in Kenya. So it works in all the counties in Kenya. We've gone into 30 counties of the 47 counties. But we have partners with other organizations across the continent where we share information and we also attend meetings together. As far as the United Nations is concerned, no, we don't get any support from the United Nations. I think United Nations mainly works with national governments. Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
We're going to come here, but before we come here, I know there's a lot of students in this room. Do not be afraid to ask questions. We would love to also hear from you. All right, what do we have over here?
First of all, I just wanted to say I'm a film buff and I just love your daughter. She was outstanding in Us, that horror film. Now for the question.
Thank you.
Round of applause for Lupita, too. While we're here.
The question is, do the national branches of IPM do much work with immigrants and refugees?
Come again?
Does the national branch of IPM do a lot of work with immigrants and refugees?
In Kenya?
The ones in the U.S., do they help newly settled immigrants and refugees?
Okay, I would like to ask Joe to answer that question.
Can we get a microphone to Joe over here? And also, Joe is with IPM, guys. Every time, that's why I keep looking at this table right here.
Primarily, we do not. Primarily, we work internationally, but we do partner with refugee and immigration organizations around the world. And on Monday, we had a gathering with representatives of the Council on World Affairs. Karina is here somewhere. Global Cleveland, Resource, what was the refugee response, and Anya, a new member of our community who's working with Salvadorans on H-1Bs here in Northeast Ohio. So we do what we can. My roots with the organization extended to working with the Refugee Center in Rome in the early 90s, and refugees and the immigrant community are really dear to our heart, and we want to continue to do all we can, particularly in the political climate we're not talking about, to support them as much as we can.
Well, Joe, let me hold that mic real quick, because Dorothy or either one of you can answer this. You guys have made 50. Happy birthday. What's next? I mean, you've 50 years of great work. Either one of you can answer this.
Go ahead, Joe.
We can get a seat for you.
That's what we're trying to figure out this week. We gather every 4 years. COVID put a little bit of a hiccup in that. We've been gathering this week from the Cleveland Foundation to the City Club, at John Carroll, at Case, at Gilmore, at Laurel, and everywhere in between, to learn a little bit more about our work, and particularly the focus on our work as it relates to food security and environmental justice, ensuring equity for women and girls, and working across borders of caste and color. So those are the focal areas for the next 10 years at this point, but we'll be able to tell you more at the end of the week.
Thank you, Joe. It's like phone a friend real quick.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, do we have our...
Hello, Dorothy. It's so great seeing you again. And I just want to say that I and my sister Jan and I and a couple others, we were part of one of the wonderful, wonderful immersion trips that IPM has led to Kenya. And it was a trip of a lifetime, and where I remember one of my favorite excursions was driving probably 3 hours out of Nairobi, going to the Kubari slum, the largest slum in Sub-Saharan Africa, and then going another 2 hours off-road into just the wilderness, it seemed. But what we went to was a place where IPM had created a water source that hadn't been there for this community, which was, they were just so thankful and amazed that, you know, IPM had done that. We also went to a school that IPM helped build where there wasn't one. And so my question, for those of us who maybe haven't had the chance for this, you know, mind-blowing experience, Dorothy, could you explain to us, what is it like for the children in Kenya growing up? You know, we heard some stories, and, you know, growing up, you know, do they have shoes? Do they have the food, the education, the transportation, the health care? What's it like for a child growing up, especially in the countryside in Kenya?
Like, what is their day-to-day?
Yeah, okay, the day-to-day, it really varies. We have private schools and we have public schools. The private schools are well endowed, and the public schools, they also vary from city to rural areas. In the villages, in some villages, it's harder than other villages. So in some places, they may not have shoes or uniform. They may not have regular meals, but this really varies. But the common thing is that education is supposed to be free of charge today, and all kids are supposed to be in school, and most of them are these days, but it's not the same for everyone. There's still a lot of disparity. Yeah.
Got it. All right, we have a gentleman over here.
Habari. Good afternoon. My name is Reverend Abel Oriri. I happen to come from Dorothy's part of Kenya, and I've just got back a couple days ago from Kenya. And I'd gone to Kenya because my mother was diagnosed with cancer, and I was able to see what Dorothy's talking about, the kind of help that is available. When I left some few years ago, we had none. But now my mother's getting proper care. We take her from a place called Homa Bay to Kisumu to see specialists there. And so, Dorothy, we are very grateful for the work that you do.
Thank you.
I think the Nyong'os have been a role model for all of us from Kenya, and we are very proud of them because of the kind of work that they are doing. So for this organization, I think it's a great and a privilege really to have people of caliber of Ms. Nyong'o and Professor Nyong'o, their governor, to team up with a group like this, what we have here in Cleveland. So thank you very much. I don't have many questions, but I just want to highlight the fact that your work is making a difference. My mother is able to live, and it's because you guys stepped forward and have been able to give us some answers in Kenya for some of these questions. So we need a lot of support over there still, but thank you very much. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Abel. Thank you. Good to see you.
Hi. Obviously, you've done like such an amazing work, and I think it's really incredible. I was wondering, what would you say are like your biggest like inspirations or influences for this work you're doing?
My biggest inspiration.
You have to eat a cookie too, so you could take your time on this one too.
Mother Teresa, selfless woman. Yeah, she did a lot. Yeah.
So that's an answer right there. We have a gentleman over here.
Hello. You have dedicated, Dorothy, a huge amount of your time to IPM over the years. And I just wanted to, from a personal perspective, how has that work impacted you and your family and the other work that you do as well?
The dedication to IPM? That's a tricky one. As I said, I'm drawn to the work that they do. It's a natural fit. And so my question has always been to Joe, what do you want me to do? What else can I do? And really, I really don't think I've done enough. There is so much more to do. So I would still like to be able to identify exactly what else I can do. I don't know for how long I'll be able to do that. But when you are in a room with Mahesh and Julieta and Maria, Julia and Joe and his parents and Ilse, and you see the commitment, and you and all of you, you see the commitment that everybody brings on board. There's a sense of inadequacy. You realize that people have given their lives. People have given their lives to this cause, with or without remuneration, to make a difference in somebody else's life. It's a challenge. So you think I'm doing so much, but I don't think I'm doing so much. There's room for more.
We're ninth graders at Laurel School for Girls in Shaker Heights.
And we were just wondering how the both of you have held your composure so well, given what's going on recently in your home countries.
Was there anything else on the table for you? What did we say earlier? We're not going to lean into this.
Because we're sisters.
That's exactly it. Because, I mean, you have to lean on each other. We can't control the world. We can't control what's going on. Yeah. I feel like you have wiser things to say than me, so I'm going to let you finish it. But it's having each other.
Yes, we have each other. Yeah.
You have to find that hope. You have to find the silver lining and the joy, because if you focus on the negative, you will always be in this dark space. But as she has continued to push in Kenya and across the world with her work with IPM, it takes holding on to that little bit of hope. Even if it's as small as a mustard seed, it doesn't matter what faith you are, but even if it's that small, it takes holding on to that. So that's how we've stayed composed and, like she said, leaning on each other. I'm so honored and blessed to have met her and got to know her and hear from her, guys. She is filled with wisdom and empowerment and encouragement. And I just hope that you guys are receiving as much as I am just sitting next to such an amazing woman. Good job, though. Good question, guys. Okay, we have another one over here.
Thank you so much for coming all the way from Kenya to be with us here in Cleveland, Ohio. We really, really appreciate it. I'm with the Cleveland Council on World Affairs, and what I really wanted to celebrate about the messages you're sharing with us is your point that we just discussed about global solidarity. And obviously, one way as Clevelanders we can express our global solidarity with people all over the world is through the work of IPM and other nonprofit organizations. But one way that we also express global solidarity as Americans is through direct support through federal agencies such as USAID and other development organizations. And I'm wondering if you could remind us here in Cleveland, those of us in the room, but I know there's also a lot of people listening on the radio, of why it is so important for Americans to express our solidarity with the people of Kenya, with the people in Kisumu. What does our taxpayer dollars that work on development programs, how does that make a difference in the lives of the people that you know in your home country?
Okay, those national dollars come to the country usually through programs at the national level. But they do trickle down, and there's all kinds of programs supported by USAID and so on. And they do change lives. Unfortunately, because they come through the national program, a lot gets spent on logistics and other things, and less gets to the grassroots. That's always been a challenge, but that's how governments work, and I don't think, in one sitting we're going to resolve that. But if, ultimately, whatever trickles down does make a difference. Yeah.
Another one over here.
Hi, I'm Jay Stone. That's my dad right there, Joe. So I hope if your answer to this question is in his name. So is there someone, since you started working with IPM, that's kind of motivated you to persevere through challenges day in and day out, that's kind of just been there for you during times of struggles and adversity?
Oh, just watching your dad is a real motivation. Yeah, because he has managed to steer the organization through thick and thin. And it's admirable. Well done, Joe.
Did you know that was going to be her answer? I'm just kidding. No, round of applause, Joe. Seriously, it takes a team effort. Round of applause. We have a beautiful lady in red, orange, whichever in between.
I'd like to augment what my sister just said. We both were on the trip to Kenya in 2009. It was a life-altering experience. Thank you so much. So I want to put a plug in for IPM and for people to go on immersion trips. If you look at their website, there's 10 different countries and that you can go to. You saw not only what the country was like, but with respect to its poverty, its problems, but also its beauty. And for instance, I never saw a hippopotamus before, or the giraffes, the zebras, the thousands of zebras that ran. I mean, it was incredible. We went to the Masai Mara. So thank you, Joe, for creating such a great program for those in attendance. But at the same time, we went to a school. We went to a very, very primitive village where there was no running water, no electricity. It's that village where the water was fixed. But the question that I had was the infrastructure of the country. For instance, your husband's a governor. Was he elected? How involved are the people of Kenya in creating the government they have? Do they vote? How much do they vote? We know in Australia you have to vote. In the United States we see how much we vote. What's it like in Kenya?
Yes, my husband was elected. He's serving his second term, which ends in 2027. We have elections every 5 years, and all the levels happen on the same day. So yes, Kenyans do vote. We are not going to go into the politics of it, but does our vote count? One wonders, you can ask. But yes, we do vote, and we elect those different levels.
A wise woman once told me, we're not going to feed into your politics. It was her yesterday. But okay, we have another question.
Our next question is a text question. It says, as you work across communities and countries, how do you think solidarity can be nurtured among people with so many different perspectives?
How do you think solidarity can be nurtured among people with so many different perspectives? It's a work in progress. It's not going to be easy, but it needs sessions like this where people sit around the table and find common good and rally around the common good. Yeah.
Takes all of us. We have another one over here.
Yes, hi. We have another text question. We just heard such a great testimonial about the power of your work. What support does your foundation and other organizations doing similar work need to continue to have such powerful stories of success?
The main need is for finances, because with more money, we can do more, reach more people, save more lives, just have a greater impact. That's the main thing. Yeah.
Is there a website we can plug for your foundation and for IPM?
Yes, both have a website. IPM has a website. Africa Cancer Foundation also does.
So if you guys want more information on either, y'all can go to that website. Sure.
Hello. In your work, how have you seen the work of women specifically create impact on Kenyan progress? What work on behalf of women is still needed?
What work on behalf of women?
Is still needed. So you've seen the progress, but what is still needed?
Well, just more of the empowerment. Women need more finances. Women need to own more assets and be able to go through training and just be free to do more.
Now we're about to wrap up, but any lasting remarks? I mean, you've said so many incredible things. But when looking at this room, and for those that are listening in, any lasting remarks that you'd like to say?
I'd like to just point out that Africa Cancer Foundation right now is involved in the WHO, the World Health Organization, dream to terminate or to eliminate cervical cancer by the year 2030, which is in 6 years. And that is through the vaccination of HPV. And so we are actually right now on the ground working with American Cancer Society to do that. But there are so many misconceptions about it. And a lot of them, even just yesterday, somebody was sharing, a 45-year-old man is asking, can a 45-year-old man get the vaccine? And so the answers are needed, but there's so much going on in terms of negativity around vaccines right now. And so we have to come up with new ways of dealing with these negativities.
Perfect. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Round of applause.
Friends, Dorothy Nyong'o and Nadine Abusada, thank you so much for joining us. And also a special thanks to Peter Anyang Nyong'o for joining us via video as well. Forums like this one are made possible thanks to generous support from individuals like you. You can learn more about how to become a guardian of free speech at cityclub.org. The City Club would also like to thank Joseph Stone and our friends at IPM for their partnership on today's conversation. Thank you so much. Today's forum is also the Margaret W. Wong Endowed Forum on Foreign-Born Individuals of Distinction. Months before her birth, Ms. Wong's Chinese parents fled the political repression and civil war caused by the communist takeover in China. Because of her personal experiences obtaining citizenship under U.S. immigration law, Ms. Wong recognized the need for guidance and opened her own law practice. Today, Margaret W. Wong and Associates, LLC, is a nationally and internationally renowned law firm lauded for its knowledge on immigration and nationality law. We are grateful for the support of City Club member Margaret Wong, who has joined us here today to make this annual forum possible. Thank you, Margaret. We would also like to welcome students from Gilmore as well as Laurel, and would also like to welcome guests at the tables hosted by Collaborate Cleveland, Fatima Family Center, and IPM. Thank you all for being here. Up next at the City Club on Friday, November 22nd, we will reflect on the legacy of Tamir Rice, 10 years to the date of his death. His mother, Samaria Rice, Latanya Goldsby, and Subodh Chandra will join us to take stock of progress made and the work still to be done. And just announced this morning, the City Club will host the 19th Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, on Monday, December 9th. There will be a City Club member presale on the 18th, and tickets and tables will be open to the general public following day, Tuesday, November 19th. You can learn more about these forums and others at cityclub.org, and that brings us to the end of today's forum. I'm Cynthia Connolly. Have a great weekend.
For information on upcoming speakers or for podcasts of the City Club, go to cityclub.org.
Production and distribution of City Club forums on IdeaStream Public Media are made possible by PNC and the United Black Fund of Greater Cleveland, Incorporated.